A company I had never dealt with sold a file with my name on it that had me living in a country I left 2 years earlier, in a household with somebody I have never lived with. I only saw it because I asked for it. No account, no sign up, no email, no contact of any kind in either direction, ever. That is the part that takes adjusting to. There is an entire industry assembling a document about you and selling it, and its relationship with you runs one way. I should say where I sit in this because it is not a neutral seat. I run mobile proxy infrastructure for a living. Real SIM cards in real modems rented to businesses, and a fair number of my customers use them to collect data at scale. I sell shovels to one corner of this industry, which is also why I know what the raw material costs. A line on a Singapore carrier runs about $10 a month for the SIM, plus roughly $1.50 of modem depreciation. Collection is cheap. That is the reason this business exists at the volume it does. Where the material actually comes from. I want to rank the inputs by how much they contribute, instead of by how alarming they sound. Those two orderings turn out to be close to the reverse of each other. The biggest input is the one nobody can switch off. Public records, property ownership, company directorships and filings, court records, bankruptcies, professional licenses, the electoral roll in countries that have won. This is the foundation layer and it is not a close race. The data is accurate, it is already attached to a legal name, it is structured, and it can be bought or scraped without breaking anything. In Singapore, you can pull a company's officers and their registered addresses out of the corporate registry for a few dollars. That is deliberate. Registries exist so you can check who you are about to pay. The awkward part is that a design decision made for accountability also hands a commercial data business a clean name-attached spine to hang everything else on. The discount is the price tag, loyalty and rewards programs are second, and they are the input people hand over most cheerfully. A supermarket card pays you for your purchase history. The discount is the price the retailer set for it, and it is printed on your receipt every week. What they get is item-level history attached to a real name and a real address. That is more valuable than almost anything else in this market, because it is behavior rather than declaration. People lie on forms. Nobody lies to a shopping basket. And the terms you agreed to when you signed up, which you did not read, will permit sharing with partners. That word is doing an enormous amount of work. Permission granted for one thing, used for a second. Third is applications on your phone. This one is more sympathetic than it sounds, because the permission usually was needed. A weather app genuinely needs your location. A delivery app genuinely needs your address. A photo app genuinely needs your photos. What happens after that is the part nobody agreed to in any meaningful sense. The developer drops in a software kit from an advertising or analytics company. That kit inherits the same access the app already has. And location readings start leaving your phone on a schedule that has nothing to do with the weather. The developer is often not being sinister. They get paid per install for including it, and for a two-person team that check is the difference between shipping and giving up. His stream of location points is unusually powerful, by the way. Where a phone sits overnight is a home address. Where it sits on weekday afternoons is an employer. You do not need a name attached for that pair of coordinates to become one. What the till and the card know. Fourth, purchase and payment data sold onward. Some retailers sell it directly. Some payment processors sell aggregated versions. Plenty of it moves through intermediaries who clean it and match it to everything else. It gets described as anonymized, and for genuinely aggregated counts, that description holds. The problem is the versions that keep a transaction-level trail with a stable identifier attached, because a handful of purchases with times and amounts on them is enough to pick one person out of a very large crowd, the one everybody worries about, ranked last. Then there is ordinary web tracking, cookies, pixels, fingerprinting, the advertising ID on your phone. I have it fifth on purpose. It produces enormous volume and fairly poor quality. It is tied to a device. It decays as browsers keep tightening. It fragments the moment you move from laptop to phone, and a large share of what it reports is guessed. It earns its place as connective tissue instead of as a source. It is very good at noticing that two things belong to the same person, and much worse at telling anybody who that person is. The joining problem, which is the actual work, everything above arrives as fragments. A purchase history from here, a property record from there, a location trail from somewhere else. Separately, they are close to worthless commercially. They turn into a file when something links them. That linking is the real product these companies sell, and it is far harder than collection. Three identifiers do nearly all of it. Your email address, your phone number, and the place you live. They work because they are stable, unique enough, and you type them into everything. The email is strongest because it crosses borders and survives moves. The address is strongest for households because it groups people who get sold to together. The phone number sits in between. Everything else is optional decoration. The file gets assembled around whichever of those three the buyer can supply. Why hashing does not do what you were told? When this data changes hands, the email is often hashed rather than sent in the clear, and that gets sold to you as anonymization. It is a scrambling function that produces the same output for the same input every time, everywhere. So the industry ends up with a stable identifier that looks like nonsense to a person and works perfectly as a join key for a machine. It protects a leaked file from being casually readable. It does nothing to stop anyone matching you across 10 sources. The fields that are guesses. Now the strange part, and the bit I think most coverage of this misses. A broker does not only sell what you did, it sells what it concluded about you. Income band, likely health conditions, whether you look like a new parent, recently divorced, financially stretched, in the market for a car. Those are model outputs. And in the file, the guessed columns sit next to the observed columns in the same table, in the same format, with no confidence score and nothing at all telling the buyer which is which. So a guess gets bought, stored and acted on with exactly the weight of a receipt. What a wrong guess costs you. My own file had the wrong country, the wrong household, and an income band that was not close. That sounds harmless right up until you look at what these fields feed. Tenant screening, insurance quotes, background checks, price differentiation, where two people see different prices for the same thing because something decided one of them cares less. You get the outcome and never the reason. It arrives as a number, a rejection, or a quietly worse offer, with no line in it naming the field that caused it. The dispute process that does not exist. This is where it separates from credit reporting, which people constantly confuse it with. A credit file in most countries is regulated. You can see it, you can challenge an entry, and there is a process with a deadline attached. It is slow and it works often enough. Marketing and identity data mostly sits outside that. No obligation to show you the guessed fields. No obligation to justify them, and in most places, no route to correct one. So you can be priced on a conclusion you cannot see, cannot challenge, and would not agree with. Deletion requests, honestly. I want to be straight about these because both of the usual positions are wrong. They are not theater. I sent a batch, several came back confirmed, and my records stayed gone for the months I bothered to check. But there are hundreds of these companies, and the large ones you have heard of are only the visible layer. Underneath sit resellers and enrichment services holding copies. And here is the thing that settles it. Deletion removes your record. It does not remove you from the source upstream. The property registry still lists you. The supermarket still holds your basket. The location feed still runs. Next refresh cycle, you get rebuilt from the same material. So treat it as maintenance rather than a repair. Quarterly, if you are going to do it at all. And the opt-out forms routinely ask for more information than the company held in order to verify you, which is a joke that stops being funny the third time. What actually reduces the flow? Everything that works attacks collection instead of storage. A separate email address used for commerce. Every purchase, every account, every form, not a plus sign variant of your main one because those get normalized straight back. A genuinely different mailbox. This is the highest value change on the list because it breaks the strongest join key you have. The loyalty maths nobody does. On rewards programs, work out the actual saving. At most supermarkets, it lands somewhere around 1 or 2% in ordinary weekly use. Then decide whether item level purchase history under your real name is worth that. Sometimes the answer is yes, and there is nothing wrong with that answer. What is wrong is not knowing you made a trade. And where you do want the discount, nothing stops you joining with the commerce email and the number you do not use anywhere else. 20 minutes on permissions. Go through your phone. Location set to while using rather than always, for everything except maps. Contacts access revoked from anything that is not a messaging or calling app, because uploading your address book leaks other people rather than you. Reset your advertising ID and turn it off where the setting exists. It takes a minute and it breaks a lot of cross-app linking. The thing I got wrong. For years I told people to concentrate on browsers, blockers, and cookies. I was optimizing the smallest input on the list. I had it backwards because web tracking is the visible part, the part with technology I find interesting, and the part I could act on from a keyboard. The two biggest inputs are a public registry and the supermarket card, and neither one is a technical problem. I also used to say deletion requests were pointless. They are limited. I said something considerably stronger than that, and it was wrong. The floor nobody gets under. Public records are public, and they should be. Searchable company ownership is how you check who you are about to wire money to. Property registration is how ownership disputes end. You cannot opt out of your mortgage being registered, and you should not be able to. So there is a floor under all of this that no amount of personal care touches. What you control is the layer above it, which is volume and freshness. A file built from registry data alone is thin and ages badly. One topped up weekly with basket data, location, and an email that matches everywhere is the one worth selling. The full guides and tool tests are at theprivacywire.com. Subscribe for more on practical privacy.